I recently started watching The Morning Show on Apple TV. And between Ted Lasso and The Morning Show, it's clear that Apple TV is trying to represent shows that have greater emotional intelligence, more elevated ways of dealing with challenging topics. And The Morning Show has just blown me away. It has highlighted a lot of things that we've dealt with collectively over the past 5 to 7 years and showcases different perspectives on how each person in this show is like seeing the thing that happened, and then also bridging and coming together on like what is the appropriate or elevated way of dealing with this thing. How do you actually move forward towards exposing truth, but also like repairing the experience so that we can evolve. And a couple of the things that happened, one major thing is that there's talking about sexual harassment in the workplace, and there's so much here because it exposes positions of power and how the distortion in our culture of how we've in the past experienced men in power and how they create this atmosphere of submissive people underneath them. They're a hierarchy, they're higher up, and they have these people who submit their power mostly unwillingly. It's coming from like a really distortive place. So whether that's fear of losing your job, fear of like not being liked by this person, or wanting a raise, so there's like manipulation happening. It's a very shadowy subject. One of the characters is trying to get to the bottom of like what happened in the cultural space of this network. And in the past, in our culture, we do this thing where we're like, expose this thing and completely tear the thing down. And that's not necessarily always helpful because it doesn't lead to the reparation of this thing actually coming full circle, learning something from it, extracting what the learning and wisdom is, and then evolving humanity. We do this thing where we're like, that person made a mistake, that culture was bad, that situation was bad, like burn it to the ground instead of dissecting it, instead of having a regulated nervous system enough or a calibrated nervous system enough to see the thing for objectively what it is and have the emotional intelligence to learn something from it, build the culture in a different direction. Right now what I'm seeing, especially as a clinician, I just had to take a sexual harassment course, and the material in that was like evoking so much fear. It's like fear of connection, fear of relationship, because everything that you do could be associated with sexually harassing somebody. So sent to HR, disciplined, instead of being like, let's talk about how we missed fundamental developmental milestones as children, like how to be in a relationship, how to set boundaries, how to hold standards, how to communicate your needs, wants, and desires, how to deal with conflict, how to have emotional intelligence, how to sexually express yourself in an appropriate way. Like these are all, we're just seeing the effect, the outcome of a lot of deficiencies that we've all dealt with by not being taught really important things in our youth. So instead of seeing so much of like, this is so evil, this is so wrong, and leaving it there, that is not helping. It's like we are seeing objectively that we missed these things. All of us did. Many of us did. And so going forward, there's things that we need to discuss. There's ways in which we need to engage, but not necessarily creating so much fear that now people are so isolated and disconnected from being in relationship that they don't even know how to be in a relationship anymore. And it's not fun to be in a culture where like people are scared to engage with each other because you might be doing something so bad that I'm going to report you. You're going to get in trouble. You're going to go to jail. Then we send people to jail, and the jail system is so fucked because no one ever does rehabilitation in jail. They get put in a cell and then they get returned back into the environment more fearful or more primal in their ways of engaging with people. And so the main things here are that the infusion of nervous system calibration and nervous system regulation and emotional intelligence are two ways in which we're going to be able to deal with hard things as a collective, especially culturally, come back into conversation. So bring people in who have made mistakes, help them to see through the reparative process or maybe the integration of plant medicine so that they have a new perspective and they can change the way that they're being, but coming back into community, into relationship. I don't believe that a lot of the people who have made mistakes are inherently so bad that they're without repair. They just maybe missed a really key functional aspect of how to be in relationship with others. And the last thing that's important is that we're going through a cultural shift of power dynamics, where power dynamics in the past were very much like, there's a hierarchy, you listen to me, I'm in control, I have the power, you don't have power, you're underneath me. And there's an alchemized way to deal with power dynamics in that the person who has a more dominant position is the position of leadership, but it's also a collaborative process where, let's just say, the leader, the dominant person, is driving the ship, but the person that is underneath them is like, I would like to go to Florida. And the dominant person is like, great, let's go to Florida. So they're in agreement on the destination that they're headed, and they're collaborating on communication like, hey, this thing needs to change in order for this to feel more on course. And the leader is like, great, let's like make adjustments. So it's more of a collaborative approach, where then the person underneath or submissive is willingly submitting power, control, and agency because they deeply trust in the ability and the leadership of the person who is more dominant, or the person who is higher up in terms of leadership. So it's more of an inspirational, higher vibrational, collaborative approach to power dynamics that happen all the time. We're never going to be able to take power dynamics out of our reality, versus the power dynamic that are saying, you are underneath me, you listen to me, and you have no say in where we are going. Lots of points sprinkled in here, but basically the key takeaway, the fundamental takeaway is that in order to actually move the trauma out of our body, move the story out of our body, we have to finish this arc of activation where we're coming back into collaboration, talking about things, and not necessarily canceling every single person and instilling so much shame into the collective, but rather seeing a way through, seeing the reparative process is a really necessary step to elevating humanity in this next phase of evolution.